click on.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Owens. I'm the General Counsel at the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs, and I am joined here today with...
Hello, Brian Schmidt, the Health and Wellness Director here at IDVA.
And we're here today to talk about the Grants for Veteran Service, or better known as our GVS grant solicitation. I first want to thank Brian for joining me today. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
So this way everybody doesn't have to hear just me, which I'm sure will be a great pleasure to those who are on. If you have joined us today and you're with a nonprofit organization, we would love it if you would put into the chat who you are and who you are with, just so we have a feel for who's on the call and what grant applications we are looking to receive. That would be wonderful, so we know that. So what we're gonna do is Brian and I are just gonna run through the grant solicitation and hit some of the highlights of it. We, of course, ask you to read it fully and reach out with any questions you have about the grant solicitation, just to make sure that you do understand all the component parts of it and fully comply with all the requirements so that your application can get scored by the scoring panel. So I will get us started. The most important date for the solicitation is May 15th of 2024. And at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the application process will be closed. We do not accept late applications. So if you submit your application late, I'm sorry, we will not be scoring it. We do hold firm to that 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but that is why we offer such a long period for individuals to apply in order for them to be able to comply with that deadline. If you have technical difficulties uploading the documents or submitting your application, those technical issues need to be addressed prior to the 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that your application can be timely. The grant period of performance will be July 1st through June 30th of 2025, and that is contemporaneous with the state fiscal year. The grant amounts that will be awarded will be between $10,000 and $75,000, depending on your organization's need and your ability to articulate that need in the grant application. All grant applications, as I noted, will need to be submitted online, and that documentation also will be submitted online. Brian, could you talk a little for our viewers about the IDVA website and the grant opportunities link and how they can access not only information about this grant opportunity, but other grant opportunities as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Our fantastic website support specialist, Solana Osborne, here in the room running this meeting here. She actually has made some updates to our website, which actually is quite helpful in relation to this kind of grant season, for lack of a better word. So if you just go front and center on our website of www.in.gov/DVA, front and center, there'll be a banner that says grant opportunities, and you can click on that, and it will show all the different grant opportunities. And it'll mention if they're closed, which a couple of them have just previously closed in relation to the governor's challenge. But the ones that are open, for instance, right now, the Grants for Veteran Services, it'll have open and it'll have a direct link that goes to the actual solicitation, which is the information that really kind of goes through everything that Gabrielle asked everyone to read before applying. And then the actual link to the online application, which is really cut and dry. And then it also has a link to, we'll have a link to this session, which is recorded, and the previous sessions, which is recorded. If you'd like to go back to hear maybe some questions that we're asking that one as well.
Great, thank you very much. One other date that I want to point out, and these are all listed in the solicitation on page 4 under important dates, is May 24th of 2024 is when we plan to send out the award and denial letters. And that will then let your organization know whether you were awarded a grant, what the amount of that grant is, and the areas of your budget that we approve for the award. And if you are denied, you'll be notified in writing also that you were denied. And we always afford everyone who is denied the opportunity to contact us and talk about why your grant was denied, because we would love to help you be successful in the future at applying for grants. Some of the other things we just want to point out is, as far as eligibility, you must be a nonprofit organization and be able to evidence that with your letter from the IRS showing that you are a nonprofit organization and that your organization is registered with the Indiana Secretary of State. The other requirements are listed on page 5 of the grant solicitation, but those are two we always want to highlight because we do find applicants each cycle who do not have those two requirements met, especially the registering with the Secretary of State, the Indiana Secretary of State. So if you are looking to apply and have not registered with the Indiana Secretary of State yet, I would highly encourage you to do that right away. If that is pending, please note in your application that that is pending. We will still score your application, but no grant funds can be received by your organization until you've met that criteria. As far as purpose areas go for the grant, Brian, there are 6 purpose areas that can be found at the top of page 6 on the solicitation. Would you just mind running through for our listeners what those purpose areas are? And the last one on the list is near and dear to your heart, a new addition to the legislative sessions ago. So if you could just run through those, and maybe you want to spend a little time on the last one, I'm sure anyone on the call would love to hear.
Thank you for the opportunity to self-promote the Governor's Challenge work.
Yes, I'm here for you.
Yes. Well, first, programs that are focused on eliminating homelessness, preventing near-term homelessness, and providing safe and secure living conditions. Secondly, assisting veterans in moving from public housing assistance programs to either home ownership or stable and long-term rental status. Followed by assisting veterans in finding and using available federal and state resources. Providing therapeutic services, so that could be pretty broad. So, think of what you do and how it can fit in that. And I'm sure a lot of the work that you do is in relation to therapeutic services. And also providing job training and job search assistance. And then finally, preventing veteran suicide. Some of you may have heard of the Governor's Challenge to Prevent Suicide Among Service Members, Veterans, and Families. That's a pretty vast program that we're implementing here. It's a federal program to challenge governors and mayors across the country to, do more work to prevent veteran suicide. In relation to that, you could look at preventing veteran suicide and kind of really break it down into 3 different buckets. First off is the identification of those service members. So, are you a veteran? Have you served? Has a family member served? How are we going to find these veterans that are out there in our communities? Roughly 40% of veterans that die by suicide are not connected to any federal VA healthcare benefits, resources, services. They're just people out in the community living their life. So identifying them, is really just engaging the community. So what can you do and where do you do it? How can you help to identify these veterans in your communities? Identifying them is veteran suicide prevention. Promoting connection and improving care transition. So, veterans go seek care at the VA. They also seek care at regular mental health care providers, regular community care. But a lot of times those organizations are siloed off. So how are we enhancing these kind of warm handoffs between agencies and organizations? That's improving care transitions. Promoting the connectedness. A lot of veterans join great organizations such as the DAV, American Legion, VFW. A lot of veterans also don't join those organizations. So what are other means of connection that can be done in communities to enhance that? That could be something as simple as walking groups, vet-to-vet meetups, vet-to-vet coffee socials. Those are different types of things. So anything that promotes the connectivity of veterans falls within that veteran suicide prevention as well. And then finally, lethal means safety and education. So veterans do die by a firearm at a much higher rate than their civilian counterparts. So what can be done about that? is about putting information out in gun shops, pawn shops, gun ranges, hosting events at gun shops and gun ranges. Veterans love to shoot guns. Indiana is a very pro 2A state. We're not trying to take anyone's guns away from them, but we want to utilize every opportunity where we can find and engage veterans to educate them on the importance of safe storage and proper weapons handling and things of that nature. So different events and networking events that are actually hosted by gun shops and gun ranges can fall within veteran suicide prevention as well. So those are kind of the three pathways that fall within the governor's challenge. But again, you may be doing something completely different that is in relation to veteran suicide, and that is welcomed as well. Thank you.
Thank you. On page 6, you'll find a list of all the documents that you will need to submit along with the application. Again, that all gets uploaded onto our website through that portal. On page 7, you'll find the list of allowable and unallowable costs. This is not intended to be an all-inclusive list, but these are the most common items that we have seen in our experience that are allowable and that we award funds for, and that we disallow funds to be used for. Then we talk about reporting, which is the last thing that we'll highlight before we take any questions. You, as an awardee, will be required to do fiscal and programmatic reporting. We not only want to see where you're spending the money and evidence of that before we'll reimburse you, but we also want to know how many veterans you served, whose lives you've touched with the grant funds, and that allows us to champion your cause along with ours as we do our legislative work and we seek additional funding for the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs. Having those success stories and programmatic numbers allow myself and Director Weimer to talk to legislators and talk about the great things our grantees are doing with the grant funds, and ideally have additional monies available to grant out into the future. Both the fiscal and programmatic reporting occur together, and those could be done by an organization on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis at the choice of the grantee. All we ask is that you choose whether you're going to be monthly or quarterly at the beginning of the grant cycle, and then you will be locked into that choice throughout the grant period of performance. So those represent the highlights of the grant solicitation. Did I miss anything that you think our audience should know?
No, not at this point. It's been great thus far. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So we will look to see if we have any questions. This is the Q&A portion. Salon, do we have any questions? All right, we do not see any questions in the chat box. We will give it one more minute in case somebody has a question. And if not, then we will say goodbye for this morning. I will just note that the contact information for myself and Brooklyn Deaton, who is our grant compliance administrator, can be found on page 2 of the solicitation. You can feel free to reach out to us with questions regarding the grant process. However, it is a competitive bid process, so we are not able to speak to any specific questions about your program, your application, your budget. Those would be decisions you have to make on your own. Oh, we actually have a question. Brian, would you like to read the question?
We do have a question from Josh, and the question is, have you partnered with any Habitat for Humanity affiliates in the past, and if so, in what capacity?
All right, I'll take that one. So as far as partnerships go, I'm going to answer the question as it relates to have we awarded grant funds to any Habitat for Humanity affiliates in the past. I do not recall ever granting to any of the Habitat for Humanity affiliates. Now, they could be recipients of a subaward where we granted funds to A, who then sub-granted to a Habitat for Humanity affiliate, but I don't recall in the past 5 years of our grant program, and I have been the only administrator of these grant programs, so if it is not in my realm, then it did not exist, but I do not recall that. That certainly does not mean that we could not Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization that serves veterans in Indiana. I feel certain they're registered with the Indiana Secretary of State, so they would be an eligible applicant for our program, and we would look forward to reading a grant application from them. All right, usually the first question is the hardest to get. After that, we usually get a few more after somebody breaks the ice. Any other questions? Or Josh, if I did not fully answer your question, feel free to let me know that in the chat and I can take another stab at it. All right, I must have done a wonderful job
I think you
because
did.
Josh has not told me that I did poorly, so I appreciate that. Oh, he said, thank you for the information, look forward to the opportunity to apply. Well, thank you, we look forward to reading it and scoring it. I'll just say briefly before we close, we do comprise a grant scoring panel. It will be individuals from within IDVA, including myself. And then we also get grant scores from outside the agency to give a outside perspective into the grant applications. And so we do invite outside individuals to come and score with us, and we welcome their input and insight.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add, if there's any questions that do pop up over the next 2 weeks while this is open, please feel free to reach out. I know that Gabrielle's information has been included. If you'd like for me to elaborate a little bit further on the scope of the Governor's Challenge, please feel free to reach out. I'll have Salon add my information into that chat as well.
Last thing I can think of before we say goodbye to our audience here today, could you speak about the social media opportunities that IDVA has where people can follow us or link to us to learn about the opportunities that we have available through a social media?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an extensive database, through the work that we've done over the past countless years. So one of the things that we do is we love to be able to promote all the great work that all of our partners are doing throughout the state of Indiana. So we do have an events calendar on our website. So you can actually go on our website and you can find a thing where you can submit an event where we will post that event and share it through our channels throughout the state. But then also you can put some information you might request in there. Would you like to have a county veteran service officer present? Would you like some information shared at that event? So we want to make sure that we're doing our best to promote the great work you're doing for our veterans throughout the state of Indiana. Also, I should touch on to our event sponsorship program, which is $500 that are awarded to also a nonprofit registered with the state of Indiana annually to engage veterans of their communities, and this is to support an event in that outreach as well. The turnaround time on that is quite quickly also. And then finally, on our website, you will also notice links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn,
X.
X. And then, since we're being such a great YouTubers right now on here, if those few of you that are on the line could subscribe to our page. That way you'll be in tune to some of these upcoming discussions and different types of information we'll be putting out from time to time. That would be greatly appreciated as well.
Thank you. All right. I do not see any other questions, so we will say goodbye for this morning. If anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out and we'll answer your questions to the best of our ability with the thoroughness that we can. And so that is all for this morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to reading your grant applications. Bye-bye.
Oh, you crushed it.
No.